Your Mama's Kitchen is brought to you by Rivian.
So the kids would make fun of me and call me Pinocchio. But I could beatbox. And rap was just starting to become really big in the early 80s. And so I'd be on the street in Cleveland on Clearview Avenue, with a bunch of kids around me, and I'd do the beatbox and they would rap over it. And that's how I kind of got in with the kids.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Your Mama's Kitchen. This is the place where we explore how we are shaped as adults by the kitchens that we grow up in as kids. Not just the food, but all the stuff that happens there. The meals, yes, but also the card games, the conversation, the music on the radio. I'm Michele Norris, and our guest today is Reggie Watts, the musically talented and comedically inclined fellow that you might recognize from his stages where he combines his beatboxing skills with his wacky, sometimes experimental, always entertaining improv comedy routines. He was also the band leader of the show, The Late Show with James Corden on CBS, and he is an ever-present image on my social media feed. And so it feels like I actually get to talk to you this time instead of just listen to you. Reggie, thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for making time. You grew up in lots of different places. You were born in Germany. You lived in Madrid for a time. And then as a kid, you moved to Montana. And we always began the show by asking people, tell me about your mama's kitchen. But when I ask you that question, where does your mind immediately go? Which kitchen? Which country?
I mean, probably the Montana kitchen, just because I was 4, when we got there. So I don't really remember any other kitchens. Although now that you've mentioned it, maybe I'll have a flashback during the day and I'll remember the kitchen in the apartment in Madrid. I don't know.
What do you remember about the kitchen in Montana, and where in Montana was it?
It was in a city called Great Falls, Montana. And yeah, it was it looks exactly the same. I still have my family home there. And it's red. It's like everything's red in there. The pot holders are red. There's like a cookie jar is a giant strawberry that's red. The sink is red. The refrigerator used to be red, but now it's black. But yeah, it's just red everywhere.
Okay. So, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about the kitchen, what do you think of it as? Just a place to eat, or was it a place where the family gathered? Was it, a place where people argued? Was it a place where people laughed? What emotion sort of comes to mind when you think about the kitchen? And as you think about that, how has that shaped the person you've become today?
I mean, yeah, it was like, it was a place where I ate my breakfast, every day as a kid. And, we'd eat dinner there. And, yeah, I mean, we had a TV in there too. So we'd watch TV together. I'd watch TV with my dad and, or my parents sometimes too. And yeah, just had like a lot of meals. I mean, pretty much only 8 meals there. Yeah, and we had there was like what was like one of those expanding tables. So of course the table was red, but it had leaves, so you could like pull it apart and make it a little bit wider if we had like a guest or a larger meal. But then we had a dining room as well, so it was very fancy.
Did you eat in the dining room very often?
Yeah, we'd eat there. We'd eat there only for like Thanksgiving and special occasions and stuff like that. But most of the time it stayed chill.
So Dad was in the military, and your mother is originally from France.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you moved to Great Falls, Montana when you were 4 years old. Was it a bit like landing from Mars at that point?
I mean, it might have been, I suppose. It's really hard to remember because I don't remember how I was necessarily feeling. I mean, I remember when we first got there that we stayed in a motel for like a couple months until the house was ready. So, I don't know. It's like, I guess the sense memory of like, the United States in 1976 in Montana, definitely there was a feeling there for sure. But it didn't feel like necessarily alien. It felt more like, um, I don't know. I guess the feeling when I first got there, it was really informed by television shows, so in a way, the United States had a presence, broadcast around the world in a way that when I got there, it felt mildly familiar.
Hmm. Can you tell me about your parents and start with your mom? What's her name? Tell me a little bit about her.
Oh yeah, her name's Christiane Marguerite Watts. Her original name was Boyer, and yeah, she's from France, and she's from a place called Toul, which is in the north of France, and she was my mom, and she worked a lot of different jobs, but she worked Avon, she worked I believe she was a cleaner for the laundry services in the Air Force Base, and then she was a house cleaner, a base contractor, and yeah, that was her. And then my dad was, and I mean, yeah, my dad was from Cleveland, Ohio, or Akron, Ohio, originally, and also my mother had a brother, and then three step siblings, and my dad was an only child, born in Akron, and then I think they moved to Cleveland, and then he joined the military and was in the army and went. I think can never remember the order, but he was in the army first, and he switched to the Air Force. But he
Mm-hmm.
did do two tours in Vietnam, um, and I think he did the tours of Vietnam first. Then he transferred to the Air Force. They let him transfer to the Air Force, and then he met my mom when he was decommissioning an Air Force base in Germany, and then yeah, they met up and yeah, hung out in Germany. I was born in Stuttgart, and then we moved to Madrid, and then he moved to the U.S. We all moved to U.S., and then he had a job in the Air Force. Then he quit, and then that was that's pretty much it's pretty much his history, I suppose.
I'd read that your mother held on to her French identity. Wherever she moved, that she saw herself as being someone who was French. Did some of that rub off on you?
Uh yeah, yeah. I think. Yeah, I do think some of it rubbed off on me for sure. I mean, the French identity is a really interesting one because it was so around me all the time, and I kind of
Mm-hmm.
just took it for granted. So I never really had I guess I never really had a way of thinking about it that was external to like, oh yeah, I'm part French,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, growing up speaking French and my mother speaking French, and I mean, being French and speaking French, and then going to visit my relatives in France every other summer when I was growing up, being exposed to French culture, hanging out with my cousins. Um, yeah, it's definitely a part of me, but it's weirdly so a part of me that I don't ever think about like it's like yes, I have French heritage or anything like that.
It's
It's
just as
really
much a
weird.
part of you as your hair or your nails or your,
Yes, yes,
skin on your
yeah,
back or something like that. Was
yeah,
French
yeah.
food a part of your life growing up?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had escargot. Most special meals we'd have escargot. My mother would make canard à l'orange, orange duck. She would, which I wonder if they got that from the Chinese. That'd be interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, and then of course like her crepe. My mother would make crepe Suzette, which was like her favorite thing to make. It was very easy to make, but she wasn't. Also, my mother was not an amazing cook, and she would have admitted to that too.
Mm-hmm.
So but she was a hard worker, and she did the best she could. I thought she made really solid food. But yeah, it wasn't like her. She wasn't like it baking and doing things in the kitchen necessarily, but she loved food, and we would food. We definitely all communed over food.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you a food guy now? We
Mm,
should say that before we actually started this conversation, you were sipping a salad.
that's right. I was sipping a salad power. Yes. Sounds like salad power. Ugh. Um, yeah, I was sipping a salad. Yeah, because I do love food, but I oftentimes may miss salads, or greens in my day because I'm
Huh.
like, I need a protein shake. I need I'm on the go. And so I'm super into, I would say like now I used to be like very foodie oriented for sure. Like when I lived in Seattle in the 90s growing up, I love like restaurants and cafes and things of that nature and different types of foods. Um, and that continued into my New York years in the 2000s, and then that was like the time when farm to table became a thing and, the whole like gastropub phenomenon happened. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was definitely super into food then. And then still into food, moving, having been in LA for the last 10 years. But uh, I would say that now, the last 5 or 6 years, I've been more into like nutrition, like food as fuel. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so I have like, I'm really into like vitamins and, neurohacking and, just making sure that I'm using supplements that complement what I need, especially as you get older. And so, yeah, I just want to make sure my nutrition is like scienced out. And a lot of times I just eat for fuel and, but I still enjoy a good meal. Yeah. Now and then.
You are so confident on stage, and you bring your full self into every stage that you walk on. I'm wondering what a young Reggie Watts was like. Tell me about a 9-year-old, 10-year-old Reggie Watts. Did they call you Reggie back then?
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I mean, my parents would sometimes call me Reginald, but most of the time
And and
Reggie. I
and,
mean,
that, and did you know that you were in trouble if you heard the full Reginald?
yes, there was definitely some of that for sure, some of that. But yeah, I would say like, yeah, it wasn't just exclusively used that way, but definitely a part of it for sure. No, I was known as Reggie for the most part. I mean, sometimes kids would, when you have a longer name, they'll like use it, or just like, Reginald or whatever. But never really was an issue. Also, there was like the Archie comics, and there was a Reggie in there, so it was not like an alien name. Um, but as I don't know, 9-year-old. I mean, I was just like a really curious kid that was interested in science and imagination, and um, was definitely into having friends and trying to, sometimes overly eager to, have friends. But but yeah, I would say like, and I was definitely hard headed. It was hard, like I'd get in trouble, from now and then in school just because, teachers sometimes or aides or things like that would be what I thought they were being unreasonable. And
Hmm.
so, I had to say
Hmm.
something.
You thought they were being unreasonable and you had to correct the record?
Yeah, just like I didn't understand. Sometimes the rules were so arbitrary. I was like, why? This makes no sense, you know?
So you were
Uh,
that kid.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
You also, you told us a little about your mom and your dad. They were in a mixed marriage,
Hmm.
and this was in the 1970s, and that is much more common now than it was in the 1970s.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they met in 1967, I believe. So yeah, that was an early time. I mean, in
Yeah.
Europe, it was more likely to happen in Europe, of course. But France was a lot more lax about
Hmm.
that. Um,
How was Montana? What was that like for you? Did you feel like you had a foot in multiple worlds?
oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I loved it. In many ways, I loved being kind of the outsider uh, kid, or the outsider perspective. So, because when I was born, I didn't have citizenship. I didn't get citizenship. So I had no citizenship until I was 4 years old. And then I became an
Hmm.
American citizen. And even when I moved over here when we first moved over, I didn't speak English. I spoke Spanish and some
Because you had been
French.
living in Spain at that point.
Yeah. And so I had to learn English. So I learned English. I don't remember Spanish at all, by the way, but, which
It's
is
probably
weird.
deep in there somewhere that if you.
It's in there, and it's like I can definitely say, like, like, ora sí, la recordamiera, que to sono moloro, fistanierina, taro consoson, e la consuela straveña. I can get like I can get the cadence of it. It can kind of sound like it. It's like hovers between Italian and Spanish. So yeah, and then when I hear it, I do understand parts of it for sure. But yeah, for whatever weird reason, it just like I guess it stopped using it, and there was nobody in Great Falls, Montana that spoke Spanish. Although I did have my friend Wally, whose mother is Spanish, but she would mostly just say, "Wally, where are you going?" Like she would just say that, and then once in a while you'd hear a Spanish word like menudo. But but yeah, so that was as close as it got. I just didn't do that. But so I became a citizen when I was 4. And so that kind of made me feel not a part of anything fully, which is something I still feel like today. And
You still feel that?
yeah, for sure. I feel like I'm like, that's what I call 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Uh-huh.
In friend circles, friend groups, it's kind of what allows me to be in multiple different types of human cultures, and that's like what I was doing when I was a kid because my mother was French and my dad was from Cleveland, Ohio, and we're living in Montana. And so there was I'd go visit my dad's parents, in Cleveland, Ohio, in the all black community. And that was something I was more alien to because it was 98% white in Great Falls. And so, so I grew up speaking, fluent Caucasian. And so when I'd go to Cleveland, I would speak like this, and then I had a not a flat nose, and so the kids would make fun of me and call me Pinocchio, but I could beatbox, and rap was just starting to become really big in the early '80s, and so I'd be on the street in Cleveland on Clearview Avenue, the bunch of kids around me, and I'd do the beatbox and they would rap over it. And that's how I kind of got in with the kids. So
So
music was always the key.
paint a picture. How did you share your skill? When did that happen? Was that something that no one's paying attention to me, let me show them I can beatbox? Or, how did you share what you knew with them and earn their trust and respect?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think it would have just been, I was on the street. Obviously I had my
It's
grandma.
almost like a movie scene. The kid
It
comes in
is.
from out of town and,
Yeah, you're
and,
right.
he's got the funny hair and nose is different and he talks funny and yeah, but he can beatbox,
Yeah,
like what?
it's true. No, it's true. Actually, that you saying that, I'm like, wow, that would make a really great scene in a movie. Yeah, because it's like, what a cool moment. Yeah, I think my grandmother, her and my grandpa, they lived on that block forever. And there was a white family that lived across the street, which was crazy. It was an all black neighborhood and this one white family, and they were like super cool, and everybody loved them. It was awesome. Um, but I think that they were just so integrated in the neighborhood that, when I got there, kids couldn't be too disrespectful because my grandma Willa Mae, she'd give them a talking to. So so people didn't go too far, if they were trying to make fun of me because they knew that she was, they'd have to answer to her. But, I spent a lot of time with my friends. There was a friend down the block, his name was Reggie. So he was the only other Reggie I knew growing up. And so he and I would hang out. We went to like SeaWorld together, with his mom and their gremlin. And, we,
Did you say in their gremlin?
yeah, in
That
their
takes you back.
AMC gremlin.
Yeah, that really snatches you back. Wow.
Yeah, it's like they had a gremlin, and my neighbors across the street when I was around 7, 8, 9, they had a pacer. If anybody remembers a pacer, that the passenger door was slightly longer than the driver's side door, which is really weird. But anyways, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, growing up, I had Reggie. So I had like some friends, and we would play, and I think that was fine. I wasn't, it's just like when we went outside on the street and we played with the kids on the street, and because there'd always be like kids all up and down the street playing. doing different things. And then sometimes they come over and be like, "Hey, what are you doing over here?" I'd be like, "Oh no, we're doing this." And then, they make fun or, or laugh or whatever. And then I think when beatboxing, I mean, when, Fat Boys came out and, Planet Rock and all of that, like I love listening to music. I love recreating it. So I think I was drawn to, I was like, oh shit, I could do like beats because like I see people rapping like in the movies, there's like someone doing a beat and there's people rapping over it. And so I think I just naturally gravitated to that, and kids were like, oh, cool. And then they just jumped on board.
How and when did you develop that skill? Were you sitting in your room just practicing over and over and over again?
I was watching TV. I think the Fat Boys really had a huge influence on me because that was really the only time I'd heard beatboxing. Um, and
And you still
yeah,
do this. It's still part of your routine sometimes.
yeah, I still beatbox. Yeah, I do it all day long. but I never beatboxed. I never beatboxed like beatboxers generally beatbox. Even today, even like in the beatbox championships and things like that, people are using these techniques. They're like hyper advanced, but they're using these kind of lip plosives and back of the throat stuff. And for me, my stuff was either like forward in the mouth, like a drum set would be like,
I was going to say, can we hear that?
right, something like that. Or I would use the throat, just more like, I don't know if you're being able to hear it, but so those were the ways that I was doing beatboxing. Whereas Fat Boys were like, like I can't even do it because it fucking hurts my throat. but yeah, so I had my own way of doing it, and also Weird Al was a huge influence.
Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah,
and how so?
Because he emulated these massive pop hits, but he did it with like, his own way and like with these ridiculous lyrics. And I just thought that was so brilliant. And so I was fascinated by that. That really kind of ignited my imagination that you could like reformat things, that you could do something that's similar to something, but in your own way. And I think that had a huge effect on me, and definitely like electronic music for sure, hip hop. But art of noise, paranormia, like that as a kid, because when I ran into my friend John Thomas in junior high, he was listening to, he was listening to that. Also, Peter Gunn was popular at the time. The Peter Gunn theme was popular at the time, and there Yellow was another band, that was like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which weirdly I'm in the documentary that's touring around right now, the Yellow documentary for Oh Yeah. But yeah, so you had like weird crossovers in the early '80s of electronic sampled music that was actually in the charts, which is just unheard of. I mean, we don't have that anymore. But like you would hear, and all these like samples and electronic beats over it, or you'd hear, El DeBarge, Rhythm of the Night, and you'd hear these drum machines, happening. It was like a lot of drum machine shit in the '80s, and so the sound of drum machines sounds kind of like what beatboxers are trying to do, to an extent, even though it's kind of just human rhythm ultimately. But yeah, so I was surrounded by so much rhythm and weirdness. There was so much weirdness. I mean, even Cyndi Lauper was weird. Like everything was weird and experimental in the early '80s. So I was just swimming in all of this possibility and these sounds, and I love to mimic music. I used to do impressions of Ray Charles when I was, 3 or 4, like, like kneeling by the bed and acting like the bed was a piano and wearing sunglasses, so I was always into mimicry. And so, I got lucky. I grew up in an age where I was undistracted by an iPad or, and the TV was on or off enough, that you had to just, if your mother was like, go outside and play, it's like there was no access to another device. You just were outside, so I was outside and exposed to whatever I was experiencing at the time. And the radio was on all the time, in the car. and top 40 radio, and I listened to top 40 radio religiously. So I was just surrounded by so much music that made me feel incredible. This is probably the most diverse musical time in American and possibly even world history, was the mid 70s up until the late 80s.
And there was a lot of cross-pollination, and you could catch it on the radio, and you could catch it on MTV, and you could catch it.
Yeah.
The last record stores that were still around, we were still going out to places to purchase our music, as opposed to just, getting it on our devices. And then the music that your parents listened to. So I heard your dad listen to a lot of jazz. Is that in there somewhere too?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we had like we had a record player downstairs. And, I obviously as a kid, like, I would get a record, like, and like if I was in France and there was like Goldorak, which I think is known as Voltron, for us here. And there would be the cartoon, the animes, from Japan, would have we would have, there'd be like animes on French television, and that made me feel crazy. It's just like, what a weird world. It's all in French, and and so we'd go to the store and it'd be like a 45 of the theme from Goldorak or whatever, and it would have like a little bit of a cartoon on it, and so I would have that, but then, that would be mixed in there with my dad's, like, Miles Davis, and he loved Cannonball Adderley, and, a lot of James Brown. The album where James Brown is in prison. It's like the gatefold, you open it up and he's just like behind bars. I remember that one. That was crazy. And yeah, and,
I miss
probably,
albums. Don't you miss
yeah,
albums? The album art was so great. It was, you can't do that, now. You just can't do the same thing.
I mean, you can, but it's like, it's niche. It's actually popular, more popular than we think, but it is niche.
Albums are coming back.
They have been for like the last 10 years, 12 or 12, 15 years. Vinyl collecting is a big thing, and even Gen Z, they're going back to, I'm hoping they go back to mini disc, but albums for sure.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Rivian and their fully electric, full-sized SUVs and pickups that are designed for all of life's adventures. Now, I have to tell you, the incredible team at Rivian has gifted me with an R1S complete with a Rivian travel kitchen and snow peak cooking gear. And let me just say, it's not just a car. It's a total game changer. Driving my R1S around Washington, D.C. or around Martha's Vineyard, where I spend a lot of time in the summer, has been just an absolute joy. But what really makes it special is the adventures that it unlocks. That travel kitchen, it's become my secret weapon. 2-burner induction cooking on a cooktop on one side, prep space on the other side, storage in this sleek little portable setup that works anywhere with electricity. I just plug it right into the electric outlet right in the back of the car, and I am ready to go. I've used it for everything: tailgates, beachside picnics, even impromptu roadside coffee stops. I mean, I can make bacon and eggs if I want to after a long walk. It's so fantastic. The ergonomic carrying case makes it a breeze to haul around, and the hangout lights, you just put them up and they sort of hang over the top so you can cook even in the dark. Instant ambience, no matter where I park. And let's talk about the tech inside this thing. The 360-degree camera makes city driving inside the vehicle a cinch. The premium audio system turns every drive into a concert, and there's a speaker that you can actually pop out of the car and take with you when you're out on one of your adventures. The self-driving features, a lifesaver on long road trips. But here's another really exciting part. Rivian has just launched a new R1S. It's called the Quad. This is Rivian's fastest, most capable vehicle yet. 4 motors, 1 for each wheel, for unbeatable precision on any kind of terrain, whether you're carving sharp corners or tackling wild trails or out on the freeway. The Quad is built to stand out. Go check out the all-new Quad and all of Rivian's amazing vehicles now at Rivian.com. Trust me on this. You'll love it. We all know that food waste is bad for the planet, but that doesn't mean we're ready to start a compost pile or we're
okay with having a smelly fruit fly condo compost pail on the counter. That's why I am so into the Mill food recycler. The whole idea is to make keeping food out of the trash as easy as dropping it into the trash. I just add my scraps, and I mean like almost anything. I mean anything from chicken wing bones to avocado pits to cantaloupe rinds, and Mill runs automatically while I sleep. I can keep filling it for weeks, and it never smells. What really surprises me is the peace of mind. I used to feel guilty every time I tossed out wilted spinach or half-eaten leftovers. Now I just drop them into the bin, open the lid, drop them in, and I know that they're going to a better place. You can use the grounds in your garden or feed them to your chickens, but me, I have Mill get them to small farms for me so farmers can grow more food. You just send those grounds off to farms in little boxes that Mill can provide, and they will turn that back into real food for real animals. That's such a good feeling. It's a full circle moment that I didn't know that I needed. You can have your own full circle moment. Try Mill risk-free and get $75 off at mill.com/YMK podcast. That's mill.com/YMK podcast.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Rivian and their fully electric, full-sized SUVs and pickups that are designed for all of life's adventures. Now, I have to tell you, the incredible team at Rivian has gifted me an R1S complete with a Rivian travel kitchen and Snow Peak cooking gear, which is an accessory sold separately and available at Rivian. And let me just say, it's not just a car. It is a total game changer. Driving my R1S around Washington, D.C. or around Martha's Vineyard, where I spend a lot of time in the summer, has been just an absolute joy. But what makes it special is the adventures that it unlocks. The travel kitchen, well, it's become my secret weapon. 2-burner induction cooking on a cooktop on one side, prep space on the other side, storage in this sleek little portable setup that works anywhere. With electricity, I just plug it right into this electric outlet that's right in the back of the car, and I am ready to go. I've used it for everything. Tailgates, beachside picnics, even impromptu roadside coffee stops. I mean, I can make bacon and eggs if I want after a long walk. It's so fantastic. The ergonomic carrying case makes it a breeze to haul around. And the hangout lights, you just put them up and you sort of hang out over the top, but you can cook even in the dark. Instant ambience, no matter where I park. And let's just talk about the tech inside this thing. The 360-degree camera makes city driving inside the vehicle a cinch. The premium audio system turns every drive into a concert. And there's a speaker that you can actually pop out of the car and take it with you when you're out on one of life's adventures. The self-driving feature is a lifesaver on long trips. But here's another really exciting part. Rivian has just launched their new second-generation quad R1S. This is Rivian's fastest, most capable vehicle yet. 4 motors, 1 for each wheel for unbeatable precision on any kind of terrain, whether you're carving sharp corners or tackling wild trails or out on the freeway. The quad is built to stand out. Go check out the all-new quad and all of Rivian's amazing vehicles now at Rivian.com. And trust me on this, you are going to love it. You know, when I listen to you tell the story, I wonder if there's a blessing in growing up in Montana, because maybe you had all this cross-pollination in the music scene, but not access to the same music scene that you would have if you were in LA or Chicago or New York in one of the big cities. Even Cleveland, you know, was a little bit further away from the epicenter of music. And I wonder if that meant that you had to be individually creative, that you had to create sounds on your own. If some of this sort of eclectic interest in music that you have grew out of growing up in a place like Montana, where it didn't necessarily come to you fully formed. You know, you had to create it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I definitely consider myself lucky. You know, I tell friends, I have a lot of Gen Z and millennial friends, and and sometimes it's like, what was the 80s like, man? I don't know. I don't know. It's something like that. But I always say, like, I was in the exact perfect curve in the exact perfect location to make me who I am, in the sense that time, especially growing up in the United States, you had access to all these amazing TV shows, and it was like such the heyday of television. We had All in the Family and the Jeffersons, and Sanford and Son, and these variety shows, and Battlestar Galactica, and it all had like crazy music. There's everything had the A Team theme, the Airwolf theme, the Chips. I was so saturated with like American culture. There was like so much television and movies and all of that. And so, and then not having non-network devices, but also the idea of computers being there, but it was like early ideas of ARPANET, and then the first true internet in the whatever mid to late 80s. And even then, like, we had modems at school, but there were dial-up modems, and you could barely do anything. It was like maybe a chat room or
So the computer didn't do it for you. You had to do it yourself. That's the
you had to do
idea,
it.
is that you had to do it yourself.
Yeah, you had to do it yourself. I mean, I went to computer camp growing up. I was like 11 years old, going to computer camp at Lake Salmon Lake in Montana. And there'd be like it looked like a classic American summer camp, like from a movie. And then in the afternoon, like for 2 hours, there'd just be rows of computers. I think TI 99 4A, Texas Instruments TI 99 4A computers all lined up with tape drives, and we learned basic programming. And yeah, computers back then, it was this nerdy idea of an extension of possibility, but it wasn't like this is the device that connects us, and or anything like that. It was still very much human input based.
Reggie,
Yeah.
you also, in addition to being musically inclined, having beatbox skills, and being a comedian, you also are a master of impersonation. And not everybody can. Either many people try, but not everybody can do it with as much precision as you seem to have. And in fact, one of your TED Talks, I was listening to some of your TED Talks, and it was like, did I hit the right thing? Because you begin, and there are like a couple of characters that are talking to each other or past each other, and then you ask the audience, you wonder why I'm using this voice. How did you develop that skill of impersonation? Is it being a careful listener? Is it having the right ear? Is it, the way that you described how you beatbox and you use different parts of your voice to beatbox? Is that the thing that makes you so good at impersonation?
I mean, I guess, well, I grew up listening to, watching, I mean, again, like I was watching a lot of television, and I was also really into PBS. So when I was growing up, I was exposed to a lot of English television shows.
So you were
And
listening to
so,
All Star Cook doing Masterpiece Theater or something, and
yeah,
just
Masterpiece,
mimicking his
for
voice?
sure. But Masterpiece Theater, because I used that, for sketches, and in high school or whatever. And people would always they be like, "I'm talking in an English accent," whatever, which was just shitty as fuck. And then, but then, like, I was watching a lot of period pieces, and then what really got me is Monty Python, which had tons of voices in it. So
But a
you
lot of
had
us
like,
watched Monty Python and talked about, it's merely a flesh wound, but few of us
yeah.
could actually pull it off. So how did you get to the point where you could actually hit those voices in the way that you can?
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with being a musician, and having a musical ear, and just always wanting to figure out how can I mimic something. And so for me, when I spoke in an English accent most of the time when I was growing up, or whatever, I would be like thinking to myself, like, how does it's more like I'm speaking from like a place of embodiment. Not really. I'm not doing an impression. I'm just trying to channel whatever that is, so that it matches what I'm hearing with my ear. And obviously, like, when you're traveling and things of that nature, especially when you go to the actual country, then you start hearing all these different kinds of accents, because, obviously there's different ways of speaking in England, and there's probably like 400 different types of dialects. And so, yeah, so I think, like, or even like when someone is talking like this, they are from a different country in the way that they speak, and you figure out the affectations, why they say what they say, and the vowels are different. And so for me, it was more like trying to sound like Olivia Newton-John. I used to sing "Let's Get Physical" on the way to school. So I think as a kid, like me trying to, or imitating singers and things, that's what created my vocal range for sure. And then in high school, what really kicked my vocal range in was a band called the Sundays. I'm trying to remember her name. I'll remember her name, but the singer of the Sundays, her lines were so high, but like I was so determined to hit them, and I figured out a way to get there. So I think that really broadened. Harriet Wheeler, that's her name, and that really broadened my range. So I just like I've always had an ear.
Does it come in handy when you're ordering plane tickets or ordering food from a particular restaurant or traveling to a country and you don't want to be treated like a foreigner?
Yeah, for sure. I would use it. I would use it in various ways. Not like a lot, but yeah, I
Like
would
what?
definitely use it.
Give me an example.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like, or I would just fuck with people and just be English for the night, or something like that. Or yeah, or like if I was like, if like authority figures that didn't know who I was, if I did something and I was kind of in trouble, then I would act like I didn't know what I was doing, you know. Like,
In
oh,
in
sorry, I
another
don't
accent?
understand. I don't. I'm sorry, whatever. And they'd be like, oh, he doesn't understand, and that would always throw them off.
Ordering food?
Not so much. Not so much. I mean, like if I was ordering something French, I might say pain au chocolat as opposed to pan au chocolat or whatever people say. I don't even know what people say, but
do you have a
yeah.
Starbucks name?
No, Starbucks is my mortal enemy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I asked. Do you or at the
I
beanery
boycott
or
it.
something, or do you?
I boycott it at all costs.
All right. Sorry I asked that question.
I wanted to pass. I wanted to do like I think there should be a class class action lawsuit against Starbucks, and then what it would be is it's saying that Starbucks cannot call what they serve coffee. I don't know. It's like I don't really. I mean, I go to like small coffee shops. I go to like local coffee shops just because it's better. People care. It's more community based, and the money goes into the community. So I just don't
that's
like
righteous.
corporations.
That's righteous. Since you were a kid that was so musical, and we're talking to you in the fall, and it's pumpkin season. I can't go anywhere without seeing people's pumpkins and fall leaves and harvest displays.
Yes, that's true.
Even though they're not harvesting anywhere, in the city, but it's a look. It's a look.
Yeah.
What is acceptable candy to give out for someone like Reggie Watts? What would you?
Nowadays, if I did give out candy, I'd probably do. You know what I would do? Lily's peanut butter cups, like dark chocolate peanut butter cups, um, because they're sugar free and they taste really good. And that would make me feel good about giving an actual healthy-ish product to kids.
And they're full size. They're not the little teeny.
No. Yeah. No.
Little
Yeah.
Reese's peanut butter cups that are like this big. You don't eat sugar at all anymore?
I do on occasion, but most of the time I'm trying to choose. I have Lily's chocolate chips here, so I just like put a handful of those with some real peanut butter, and that gives me that. And I try to stay away from sugar. Sugar is like it's not particularly useful in any way, and it's very addictive. So I try to just stick to more non-sugary foods, and if I do sugar, I'll do like a keto ice cream or something like that.
What's your go-to meal to get you ready to perform, or your go-to snack if it's not a full meal?
I don't really have a snack before I go. I mean, I usually try to go on an empty stomach if I can, because it's better for performance.
In terms of vocal control?
It's just like overall energy. I think my rider is only like 2 apples, a bag of almonds, like 4 bottles of water in glass bottles, and and then like a 6-pack of Corona. But that's not for me. That's just like if friends come visit me backstage, and at least they have like some beer or something they can drink. Yeah,
no
so it's really simple.
Purple M&Ms or anything.
Oh,
nothing like
Zevia.
super. Zevia.
No, none of that. I mean, the sweetest thing is Zevia soda, which is
what flavor?
stevia sweetened. I like the cream soda. It's really good, and
the Zevia cream soda actually tastes like cream soda. It's
really
good.
Does.
Yeah,
it actually tastes great.
I'll vouch for that.
Their cola tastes pretty good. and it's like a lighter cola flavor. And then they have a caffeine-free cola that I love, so that's like what I like for nighttime drinking. But yeah, those are I mean, root beer is pretty good too. None of the other ones really hit me that hard though, but cream soda for sure.
Sounds like you don't drink alcohol.
No, it's not. I don't find it a particularly useful experience.
No sugar, no alcohol, anything else you don't do? If Reggie's
Uh,
coming to dinner, what should they know not to
oh,
have on the menu?
oh, peas.
Green peas?
Yeah,
What do you
I
have
do.
against peas?
I do not like peas. I don't like the smell of them. I don't like a bowl of peas. It's the grossest
Is
thing.
it because they came in a can, or those mushy frozen peas that they always had on Thursdays in the school lunch
Yeah,
menu?
yeah. The school lunch, I was picking out all the peas. Like a bowl of peas. That people love with like some butter on top of it. It's like I don't like the smell of it. I don't like
Have you ever
the
had like
texture.
fresh English peas when they're not canned or frozen, when they're
I, I'm
freshly
sh-
shelled?
I'm sure I have, but I just don't like them.
Okay,
There's nothing
your
about
face is telling that story. Your face is like, no
yeah.
peas. Don't give me any peas. No
There's
peas,
nothing
please.
about peas that I like. Although split pea soup is great.
I love
Weirdly,
split pea soup.
split pea soup for me. I'm like growing up, I could totally eat split pea soup, no problem.
Split pea
But
soup is one of those strange things because it doesn't look like it would be good.
no,
Like
it
everything
doesn't.
about it looks like you might want to use it to shellac something, or,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. It's a paste.
mortar and yeah. But
Yeah.
it's actually very satisfying in this harvest season where the
Yes,
pumpkins and
in this harvest, this bountiful harvest season that
Yes.
we're experiencing.
I read a lot about you in preparation for this interview, and it was fun. It was fun to read about your life and your journey, and in both music and comedy, and on the James Corden show. One of the words that kept coming up over and over again, though, is that you embrace the idea of being an oddball. Your word, like
Hmm.
you said to describe yourself, or to be a weirdo. Most
Hmm.
people, that is a label that is attached to them by other people. In your case, you embrace it. When and why did you do that?
I mean, I was always known as a weird kid growing up, so um, I've never not felt weird. Uh, I've definitely wanted to fit in to an extent, but I also knew that I wasn't ever, going to fully fit in. Um, and that was okay. But that's why I was an entertainer. I think it's kind of entertainer, uh, class clown types are always viewing themselves a little bit on the outside, anyways. That's why they're doing what they're doing. So, yeah, I don't know. I always thought of myself as weird. My friends growing up were weird, and I gravitated to weird friends, and um, junior high and high school, and and beyond. Always hung out with all the weird kids, or I was in the lunchroom and I would hang out with the weird kids in the lunchroom. Even though I had like a couple popular stints, but I was just role playing to see what it was like. But like, um, yeah, always with I mean, even in those circles, I was known as the weird kid, but I was funny, so people like having me around.
When you
So
say the weird kids, the kids who were purposely misunderstood, or the kids who were outcast, I just,
yeah.
it's a kind of an elastic word that can mean a
Hmm.
lot of different things, and is often
Yeah.
determined not by the person who's called weird, right?
Right. Well, for sure, for sure. Well, I mean, the '80s, there were clearer delineations in school. The types of people in school, and weirdos. Geeks, dorks, whatever, weirdos. Um, yeah, that was there were kids at school that they were definitely like they didn't fit in, or they were probably back then we didn't know what to call it, but they're probably autistic, on the spectrum somewhere. Um, and but I gravitated to those kids a lot. And it was always, I don't know. When I saw a kid being picked on or whatever, like I would try to make friends with them
Mm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it was
Mm-hmm.
like not cool, just to remind them that there are people that see them. It's like we can hang out. So yeah, so weirdo to me was always like the highest thing that you could be.
Felt like
You
a
know.
badge of honor.
Well, yeah, because it's the most powerful position.
Mm-hmm.
It's like yeah.
There is power in being purposely misunderstood, and also in what you were
Hmm.
saying earlier about having your foot in both worlds. That sounds like you're stretched, and it's like you're uncomfortable. But there's another way of looking at it. You're an edge walker.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's why identify with, if I had a spirit animal, it would be Anubis, from Egyptian lore. Or I guess you could say Hades or Charon, or from Sumerian times, the Rishkagal. Like this was the god that was the god of the underworld, but could freely move between the world of the living and the dead. So it's like Doctor Who, essentially. Like I definitely identified with Doctor Who growing up, because Doctor Who was this Time Lord that existed in his own paradigm and would travel to all different kinds of realities all the time, and got to meet all kinds of people and have adventures and things like that. And that's kind of how I always viewed myself, as a uh, someone who can like go between all the different types of worlds. Like you growing up, we'd be talking to the popular kids, the dirt bike kids, or the whatever hunter kids, or the like that was my thing. I like being able to. I didn't want to hang out with just one crew of people.
Mm-hmm. And that's still how you operate today, through music, through comedy, moving through life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I still hang out. It's funny. I love surprising, like artistic communities. Like, I did a show last night with this band called Kairos Creature Club. And, the show was like small. It was kind of co-sponsored by Desert Days, but, it was at this place called Permanent Records. And, they're an incredible band, first of all, but like, I did a set, and my set was like super flowy and felt really cool. Like it was like really like everything was firing really well. And it wasn't like super packed or crowded. And then, and then they got up and did their thing, and then they killed. And then afterwards we're all hanging out. And I think people are always like, they're like, I can't believe you're hanging out with us. I get that a lot, sometimes, or not a lot, but just sometimes, where they're like, I can't believe, like, why are you here? And I'm just like hanging out with like some weirdo kids in some underground club somewhere. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I'm one of you, you know? And, I feel most comfortable in those situations. But at the same time, I swim all these different kinds of circles, and I like having access to the cutting edge of whatever's going on, whether it's AI research, whether it's psychedelics consciousness research, whether it's, going to JPL and, working with a space program, on some kind of fun JPL Jet Propulsion Labs.
Okay.
They're the ones that
I'm sorry, that didn't register for me
gotcha.
automatically that I would know what JPL stood for. Sorry.
Yeah. NASA JPL. They work kind of together. But they, so, doing stuff for them or NASA, or whatever. It's like science and art.
So why choose? You do all of it. Life is
There's no need to choose.
Is a buffet, and you choose all of it.
I love it.
We always gift our listeners with a recipe, and we know that you're going to choose something interesting and that it won't involve peas. We've established that. There will be no green peas. But the recipe that you wanted to tell us about, you mentioned early on that your mother's crepes are what do you really think about when you think about comfort food? Tell me about them. When would she serve them?
Yeah, she served them. It's pretty random. I think,
and they're crepe Suzette, we should say.
Yeah, she would serve it kind of randomly. I don't think there was like a time of year or anything. She would just make them sometimes, or sometimes I would, ask for it or whatever.
Special crepe pan that she would use, the inverted.
Yeah, it's like a flat, very flat, low-edged pan that she would mix up the batter, and make it, and then immediately cover it in butter, and put the sugar on it, and then we'd roll it up, and then you eat it rolled up. And sometimes my friends would come over, and I'd make it with my friends, and it was a cool thing to share.
Well, the recipe that you shared with us involves fire.
Oh yeah.
So would you do that with your friends, where you actually ignite the?
Oh yes, right. Yes, in that particular recipe, sometimes she did. She used a brandy, I think. Something like that. She used some kind of thing. Sometimes she did, but not always.
Okay, because I was wondering if you and your friends are in the kitchen and you're like just, lighting things on fire, that might be kind of interesting.
Well,
I'm just reaching for the recipe here.
She would have been the one, even though I was a firebug. She would have been.
Okay, why does that not surprise me to learn that you are a firebug? That doesn't surprise me at all. And I'm thinking about you and all that hair. try to ignite something very carefully. So you do it
Well, these days, yeah, but I've
from a
never made it.
distance.
I've never
Oh,
made it in
okay.
my
All
adult
right.
life, so I don't know.
Okay.
I
All
haven't
right. Well,
haven't
I
gone.
road test all the recipes, and I
Oh,
too
you
have a
do?
lot of hair, so I'll just
Okay.
pull it all
Yeah,
up
yeah, yeah. You have to. You have to.
and do it very carefully, and do it with a extinguisher or a fire
Al-
blanket right there.
Always fire blanket for sure. Like just right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And the recipe says that it is a beautiful presentation, but that it just kind of flames out.
Yeah.
And you have this wonderful, it's an orange kind of buttery syrup that it creates over the crepe.
Yeah. The brandy has that, like, it's got that sweet brandy aroma to it, which is really nice. And then you have the sugar, the butter, the sugar, the brandy. It's really amazing. I mean, nowadays I would probably just make it with
I was about to ask, what's the sugar substitute?
I'd probably use monk fruit.
Yeah,
Monk
fruit. That's
fruit.
what I was wondering. Because it allows you to get that that crisp in a way that you don't with like stevia or some of the other things.
Yeah, and
you could
stevia
use.
just doesn't taste good. Monk fruit tastes like sugar. So and it keeps the granularity like sugar and everything. So it's a pretty 1-for-1. So yeah, I would use that.
And this is what comfort food from your childhood tastes like.
Yeah, I mean, for my mom, that was definitely. Yeah, I mean,
Was there
aside
something,
from macaroni and cheese or something, that's like what every
anything
kid.
from your dad's side of the family that you still think of as comfort food?
Cornbread, I mean, for sure. My dad loved cornbread, and I loved corn. And I also loved creamed corn as a kid, like with butter, and just creamed corn. My mom never liked corn because she said that's food for animals.
That's often the view in many parts of Europe. Reggie Watts, I really dug this conversation. This has been fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, I'm super stoked.
I've loved hearing your story. I look forward to making crepe Suzette. And I'll keep an eye out for you. Well, that was fun. Now, before we let you go, I want to remind you that our inbox is always, always open. If you want to record yourself, either in video or audio, tell us about your mama's kitchen. Tell us about some of her recipes. Tell us about some of the episodes that you've heard and maybe your thoughts on them. You can record yourself, either video and audio, and send that to us at ymk@highergroundproductions.com for a chance for your voice to be heard on one of the future episodes, or maybe for your video to be featured on YouTube, because we're now on YouTube as well. If you want to try the crepe Suzette, you will find that recipe at yourmamaskitchen.com. We mentioned in this episode that it calls for brandy. It actually, as you will see if you go to the website, calls for a mixture of Grand Marnier or cognac. So we want to make sure we get that right. And while you're there, you'll find recipes for all the previous episodes. Hope you'll come back next week, because we're always serving up something delicious. And until we have a chance to see each other again, be bountiful.